Did it. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. The year is slowly coming to an end, which is really sad, but also really exciting because we've got lots of new books to read in 2024. But I thought I'd make this video to give a little reflection of the year and pick 23 of my favourite books out of the 100 and something, because the year's not over yet, books that I read this year. I will say that finding 23 books for this video was a challenge, to say the least, and I think all these books that I'm going to talk about in this video are around 4-star and above, so not necessarily 5 stars, but ones that have resonated with me, ones that I consider my favourite books of this year, some of my favourite books of all time, and I've got a great selection, so obviously wanted to share that with you in today's video. I'm going to start off with number 23 and we're going to work our way up to number 1, and I have tried to put them in order, but obviously it will sort of alternate depending on my mood. Sometimes I'm in the mood for something else and the order could change, I don't know, but I'm going to start off at what I think would be my 23rd favourite book this year, and that is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I don't even really have much to say about this book other than the fact that it was just such a cute little read. If you don't know, these are little graphic novels and they're YA, they're LGBTQ, and it's basically about young people learning what they like, learning and discovering what their sexuality is and everything, just sort of like experimenting in that sense, and they're just really cute. I read it at around 3 AM in this video and loved it so much that I went straight into the second one, and the 5th one has just been released, which I am so excited for. I'm hoping to read that by the end of the year, hopefully. But yeah, really enjoyed this. Number 22 is Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is the second book to When in Rome. I think it's like a little interconnected standalone duology set in the same world. You can read them separately, you don't have to read When in Rome, but I did read When in Rome and then I read this, but for some reason I preferred this one. Not 100% sure why, not sure exactly what led me to prefer this one over it, but I really liked the family aspect in it. I loved how she was really close with her sisters. I loved just the cutesy small town vibe of it. I think it was just really picturesque. I could really see exactly what I was reading, and I did read this on holiday, so I think maybe the summer vibes sort of immersed me and made me enjoy this book a little bit more, because I was sat around the pool all day flicking through this book and I basically binged it within a couple of days. And if you do want to read this, it actually is in my holiday reading vlog, so yeah. I think my dog's about to walk in, so ignore that if she does. There's not much I can say about number 21 because it is the last novella of one of my favourite series of this year, which is the Shatter Me series. You will see another book of this slowly pop up throughout this 23 book thing, but Believe Me was the last book in that series, and obviously it's like a tiny little novella. I think it was the biggest novella out of all of them, but I think it was just like the perfect wrap up, the perfect ending to such an amazing book, such a wholesome ending. It literally had me sobbing and crying at around 2 AM because I just wasn't ready to say goodbye to these characters. And I read it on my Kindle. I read all the novellas on my Kindle, but I am slowly collecting them because I've got all the physical copies and I want them all together. But honestly, not much I can say, but so good. So highly recommend. Take this as your sign to read it if you haven't. And it just goes to show that when people say, do I really need to read the novellas? I always say yes, you should. You don't have to. It just adds so much more to the story. I remember someone texting me the other day who'd only read the 5 main books and they were like, I really wanted to see more of this or this or this. I was like, read the novellas because she's put it out there. You need to take that. It's perfect. The next one was another Kindle read and I read it in this video, and I think it started my love for hockey romances because I'd read Icebreaker, absolutely fell in love with Icebreaker. Oh, my dog's coming in. Hello. Hi, baby. Say hey. Say hi. We're talking about my favourite books. This is a good video. Do you want to go on the bed? Sorry if you can see her move around, but I think she's just going to stay on my bed for the rest of this video. Where was I? Oh yeah, The Deal. So I think this started off my love for hockey romances. As I said, I read Icebreaker, fell in love with it, absolutely loved it, and didn't think anything of it because that was the only hockey romance I'd ever read. And then when I read The Deal, I was like, right, this is it. This is my thing. I think I'm going to love this, and I've now got a whole list of hockey romances that I want to read. It's going to start like a new obsession because there's something about hockey I just love, and I don't know why. Hockey in books, hockey men in books, faves. There's so many hockey romances that are on my 2024 TBR. That is a mouthful to say. 2024 TBR. 2024 TBR. I need to get used to that. Number 19, another Kindle read, was The Inmate by Frida McFadden. Now, Frida McFadden is well known as my favourite mystery thriller author. I love her so much. I love all of her books, and I don't think there's one book that I've read by her so far that I haven't enjoyed, which is amazing. Really? Out of all places to sit on my bed, you're going to sit right there. I'm just going to let her, just ignore it. I don't have time to sit and wait for the dog right now. But The Inmate I'd heard mixed things about. Wasn't 100% sure whether I was going to like it or not because, as I said, I'd heard some negative reviews that it just wasn't very exciting and everything. And I really enjoyed it. I actually sat and devoured it within a couple of days. And I did read it for my screen time video, which arguably was the reason that I devoured it in a couple of days. But I think regardless of that video, I would have read it that fast anyway, which is really, really good. And I just really enjoyed it. And there's so many more Frida McFadden books I haven't read yet. So 2024 will be the year that I hopefully finish her backlist, because I plan on reading every single one of her books. You look really creepy. What are you doing? She just wants to be in the video, guys. She's the main character, not me. The next one is a hockey related kind of situation, but that is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second one to Icebreaker, which, as I said, I loved Icebreaker, but I also love this one too. I feel like people had a misconception of this book, that it was going to be a hockey based book, but obviously it isn't. This is based on a summer camp, a one night stand, and then that relationship progresses through the summer camp and stuff, and everyone was like, where's the hockey? But Hannah Grace has actually come out herself and said that this isn't a hockey series, this is a university series. So that is why there is a lack of hockey in this book. You still see the teammates, you still see part of the team, but this isn't a hockey book, it's a university book. So the next book might not even have hockey in it in general as well. So I feel like that was a little misconception as to why people didn't love this as much, but I loved it because I knew that going into it. And yeah, obviously it would have been great to see more of the hockeyness vibes in the book, but I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad at all, because I loved Russ and I love Aurora as well. They're great main characters, and I feel like Russ was such a considerate male main character. The little things that he would do, the little things he would say, he was just such a thoughtful person. And goals, actual goals. Can we just like take a minute to see why my dog looks so depressed right now? Tinkerbell, what is the matter with you? Number 17 is Daisy Hates, which is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. If you guys have watched other videos by me, you would know that I have fallen in love with the MPU universe this year. MP universe this year. Just adored it, but I am only halfway through. This is the last one that I read. I'm still yet to read The Long Way Home and The Great Undoing, but I am so excited to continue the series and get on with this. But I feel like I really like this book because it's set at the same time as the first book, just from another person's point of view, from Daisy's point of view. And obviously we saw glimpses of Daisy throughout Magnolia Parks, which is the first book, and it was just nice to see like her side of the story, why she behaved the way she did, and just see her turn of events basically. Yeah, I'm just really excited to delve into the second ones, but I need time to just sit and focus and devour it because I love it and it's turning into one of my favourite series. Now, I don't want to get judged for this choice because arguably some people would disagree with me. Tell me why I love Twisted Love so much this year. I don't know. I don't know either, guys. But for some reason, Twisted Love just really was an enjoyable book for me. I feel like other people prefer Twisted Games, Twisted Hate, Twisted Lies, all the other Twisted books. I feel like a lot of people chose them as their favourites, but for some reason, Twisted Love was my favourite. Very much enjoyed the rest of the books, don't get me wrong, but there was something about this one that I just really thoroughly enjoyed while reading it. I think it is just like that little sprinkle of trauma in books. It wasn't like a fluffy, cute romance, which at times I absolutely enjoy. You know that I do love and adore a fluffy, cute romance, but there's something about little bits of trauma and pain in books that I just eat up. I love it. Most of the books that are my like favourite romance books, or you know, favourite issues, are books with like problems in it and stuff, and I think that stems from like reading Jacqueline Wilson as a child. Tell me why some of the books had like people falling out of windows in it and people dumping their babies in bins in Jacqueline Wilson's writing. I grew up on that so now I'm loving this kind of Number 15 is Akamov, which is the second book in the ACOTAR series. This book is a masterpiece, to say the least. Obviously, there's not much that I can say about it because it is the second in a series, but I just think what made this book perfect for me was the setting of it all. Seeing where the characters went, I'm not going to say too much, obviously. It just really set the vibe. You got to learn more about the characters. Feyre from the first book gained a little bit more confidence throughout this book, got a little bit of training going on and stuff, so you just see a lot of character development in this book about a lot of characters that might not be your fave from the first ones and stuff. But yeah, I really did enjoy this book and I can't wait to continue this series. I've only got one left. I've only got A Court of Silver Flames left, which is really, really sad. Now this next book, number 14, started off my cowboy romance journey, and that is Flawless by Elsie Silver. I read this book in this video and thoroughly enjoyed every single second of reading it. Sarah Caroli actually picked the book for me to read for that video because she actually loved the series herself, and I was like, I need it. And I was really excited to read it anyway from seeing her reviews and seeing that she loved it. So I was like, okay, I need to be part of this cowboy vibe too. I'm a country girl. I'm really not. I live in the city of London, but in my heart, in here, I'm a country girl. But I still love Rhett and Summer to this day. Those are the main characters in this book and I just love it. And it sent me on a love for cowboy romances, and this whole entire series I just absolutely enjoyed. So I feel like this book will always hold a special place in my heart because it sent me on a journey of books that I've absolutely adored, even more than this one. Now this next one is one that I cannot tell you where my physical copy is. I have the physical copy of Carrie So to His Back. I read it literally in, what video was it? I think that was my screen time video as well. Couldn't tell you where the physical copy is though. Don't know where it is. I was scouring my bookshelves, scouring my room. I was like, where is Carrie? Where's she gone? Like, I don't know, but I absolutely adored this book. I feel like I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not because of the tennis vibe. I'm not a tennis girl, I'm not even a sports girl. Obviously it's not really necessarily a sports romance, it's just more of like a fiction with a bit of historicalness in it and everything. And I thought, as much as Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of my favourite authors in the world, I was like, am I going to enjoy this? Am I going to really sit down and like this book? Unbeknownst to me, adored the absolute shit out of it. It wasn't too tennis heavy, like obviously it was because that is the whole premise of the book, but it was explained in a way that if you have no idea what tennis is or about the rules of tennis, you can follow along easily. And it wasn't just like dumped on you, it was perfectly easy to follow. And Carrie's just such like a bad bitch character, but in a way that you just have to like her. Like she's very abrupt, she's arguably quite rude, and she's very cocky and confident, but in like the best way possible. Like you're rooting for her and you just want her to do her best and you want her to win and you want her to come back. That is the whole premise of the book. Carrie Soto is back, but I adored it and I would love to know where my physical copy is because where's it gone? The next one is the 4th book in the Chestnut Springs series, which is Reckless. Again, this is another one that I wasn't sure that I was going to absolutely love because it's a trope that isn't very well loved in the book community, and if you're not sure, it's an accidental pregnancy trope. And at first I was like, you know, it's not the best, but if it's done well, it's done well. When I tell you that Miss Elsie Silver delivered that trope, chucked it in my face, ate it up with no crumbs, so good. I really loved Winter and Theo's story. I really enjoyed the whole dynamic between the new family that they've got, the background on some of their other past relationships as well that was spoken about quite a bit in this book. It was just nice, and I feel like Elsie Silver just did the accidental pregnancy thing just really, really well. Still kept the found family within the others, because Winter just sort of was a little bit detached from everyone because obviously she's Summer's sister from the first book. You really just see the character development in this book, and I just really enjoyed it, and I adore this series. The next one, which actually matches my top right now, is ACOTAR by Sarah J Maas. This is obviously the first book in the ACOTAR series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I'd only ever read Harry Potter before fantasy wise and wasn't really sure where to delve back into it, and I filmed this video and obviously wanted to get some more books out of my comfort zone, delve into different genres. It was one of my little reading goals of the year, was to delve into things that potentially I wouldn't enjoy just to see if I would enjoy it, and unbeknownst to me, adored this book and absolutely ate it up. I loved it. I feel like as well, because you learn the fantasy and magical world of Prythian, which is the world that it's set in, with the main character, it's easy to follow and understand because she's just as clueless as us, if that makes sense. She's just a normal human, so obviously she's like us. We're learning the magic system and the magical world with her, so I feel like it's a good book to get into fantasy if you've had like a little sprinkle of background knowledge into fantasy before. I feel like this is a perfect little one to sort of carry you over into more complex fantasies. Really thoroughly enjoyed this one. For some reason I enjoyed this one the most so far, but I think just learning everything and just being immersed in it, and the length of it, I feel like it was perfect for what it was. So good. The next one was The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. This is another Kindle read. I feel like all Freida McFadden books are on Kindle Unlimited at the moment, which is exactly why I've devoured them like that. I loved it. I don't know what it was. I think this was my first ever Freida McFadden, so this started the journey of why I love her book so much, and it was just so amazing. I read it in my second 24-hour readathon at around, I think it was like the evening time, so it's the perfect time to sit and read a thriller. And I think I did guess like 1 or 2 of the plot twists, but it didn't take away from the experience that I had while reading it, because I just really enjoyed the twists, the turns, and right at the end it just takes a full 180 and you're like, did not expect that at all. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was about it that I enjoyed so much, other than the fact that it was short, it was fast paced, it was quick, it was easy, you get immersed into the characters, the backstory of the main character straight away, and it just set up a great series. This series is actually a trilogy. The first 2 are out right now. It's The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret, and I think The Housemaid is Watching is the 3rd one that's coming out soon. I'm not 100% sure whether I've got that title wrong or not. Now this is a book that I wasn't actually 100% sure whether I was going to care about very much when I first went into it. It was on my Amazon wishlist and I was like, look, if I enjoy this, great. Not really high expectations, and that is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Let me tell you, there has not been a day that's gone by since I read this that I haven't thought about it in some way, and I'm not even sure why. I have no idea what I like about this book so much, other than the fact that it was just sort of like an opposites attract, cutesy small town, you know, some comedy aspects in it as well, also some trauma aspects in it as well. Like, it was just everything that I like in a book just sort of sprinkled into one, and I don't know why it's like stayed with me. This is one that I think I rated like a 4.5, 4.75 at first, but the way it's resonated with me and the way that it's stayed with me this entire time, I think I might be bumping it up to a 5-star, and it will definitely be one that I'm going to consider rereading. And I also really am excited to read Yours Truly by her, which is the second one in this little duology. I think they're either interconnected standalones or like a little duology set in the same universe, because you actually see the main character of that book in this book. It's one of her workplace friends, I believe. I can't remember because I read this back in like July or August, so can't really remember, but absolutely love that, and I cannot wait for yours truly as well. I feel like the rest of the books in this video are the 5 stars, like the 100% no doubt about it. I rated this 5 star, and that is my final thoughts. Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I feel like this series has crept up quite a bit so far in this video, and I do apologise for that. I was just going to do series as a whole, but I thought no, because each individual book has their each individual ratings and stuff, so I wasn't sure if I was going to even like Beau's story. I'm going to be completely real with you guys. The military aspect of things doesn't really interest me in books. If it's written well, then that's amazing, but I feel like it wasn't really focused too much on that in the book. Yes, Beau had his trauma. There were definitely things that were focused on military stuff, but I feel like it was done in a way that kept you hooked the whole entire time. There was definitely some PTSD, there was talks of alcohol abuse and everything in this book, and for some reason I just really enjoyed it. I just wasn't sure, like when I was reading the other Chestnut Springs books, I was reading Flawless, Heartless, whatever, I was like, I'm excited for Beau's book, but it wasn't one that I was like, I'm so excited for this, oh my god, because obviously you meet Beau throughout the other books as well, so I was like, I'm gonna read it because I love this series, but I'm not exactly excited for it. I don't really care for it, if that makes sense, but loved it apparently. 5 star from me. Ate this up, and I actually was very lucky to get the advanced reader copy, the ARC, for this book. So I actually got it like a month, maybe? No, 2 weeks or so before it was released, and literally ate it up within a few days, which is amazing, and I thoroughly love this book. And I'm now slowly collecting Elsie Silver's backlist of the other series that she's got, and she's also just announced a new series as well, which I'm so excited for because she's actually become one of my favourite authors this year already. Now this is another one that I'm not sure why I loved it so much. Tell me why I love this book so much. Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is my first ever hockey romance. As I said before, never read one before, and I read this in one sitting. Obviously I did read it for my first 24-hour readathon, which arguably I had to read it in one sitting, but I feel like if it wasn't for the readathon, I think I still would have got it done within 24 hours. And I will say, it is a little bit on the longer side for a romance book. It's 420-ish pages. It didn't necessarily need to be that long because it isn't a very plot-driven book. I've heard so many people say, nothing happens, what is the point of this book? Nothing's happening, it's just smart, and I'm like, ugh. I loved it. I really enjoyed the banter between the main characters and just everything like that. Do you know, I don't know why I just really enjoyed it so much. I think because I was sort of, I'm going to use the word forced very lightly here because I didn't have to do the readathon, but because I was forced to read it in one sitting, I think it just made me delve into the characters a little bit more. I feel like if I took my time reading this over a couple of days, I probably wouldn't have been as attached and immersed into the story, but because I literally opened it up and did not put it down until the very last page, I loved it. Now the next book that I'm going to be telling you about is my all-time favourite in one of my favourite series this year. We have already delved a little bit into that series, and that is the Shatter Me series, but my particular favourite was Ignite Me. I feel like it was because in this book specifically, it delves more into a certain relationship within the book, a certain couple, not going to say who. I feel like the action scene was very prevalent in this book, and I feel like it set up the rest of the books really well, and the rest of the series really well, but for some reason I just really enjoyed this particular book in general. Again, this is sort of what I said about Akamov. You sort of see the main character gain a little bit more confidence. Julia in this book is one of my all-time favourite characters. Seeing her character development from the first book to this one, even by the end of the series, but even the third book in, she was already so much more confident, so much more established in who she is. Yes, she still had her issues, but who she became as a person in this book, oh, this is where it all started for her. This is where her confidence really decided to build, and she became a bad bitch basically, and the whole rest of the books are unmatched. I actually don't think I have words to even talk about this book right now, but I read this book recently in my reading sad books for a week video, and I tell you that this book absolutely shattered my entire soul. It did. It did. This book is absolutely earth-shattering, but in like the best way possible. I was just hooked from the very first page and was so in love with the little couple that it follows. It's a childhood best friends to lovers trope, and there's just many sad things that happen literally from like the first 20 pages. I was already crying all the way up until the end, where I was physically sobbing my heart out while reading it, and this book could have got no less than a 5 star for me. This is a very well loved book in the book community, but it destroyed me. It absolutely destroyed me. Easy 5 star. Anything that can emit that much emotion from me gets a 5 star automatically, because if I'm, oh my god, my mascara marks are on the book. There is actual mascara stains. I don't know if you can see that, but they are on the front of the book. That is so crazy. I love it. I love it so much. So number 4, we are very, very close to the end right now, is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I also read this in my BookTubers Choose the Books I Read video. Alexa Ray actually chose this for me, and it was such a pleasure reading this book. I absolutely adored it. This is another one that, first when I heard about it, I just didn't really care about it that much. I was like, oh, I don't really want to read it, don't really care. And then I think I watched someone else read it and they loved it, and I was like, okay, I'll add it to my TBR, but I'm not going to go out and buy it yet. It's just one of them things I'm like, maybe I'll read it in the future, whatever. And then Alexa chose it for me for this video, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll give it a shot. Loved it. I actually originally rated it a 4.75 star, but again, the same thing. Not a day has gone by where this book hasn't crossed my mind in one way or another. I have no idea what exactly drove me to love this book so much, but the way it has held its place in my mind is crazy. This is another one that I'm definitely considering rereading. This is just so beautiful. I'd really like to just go through and annotate some of my favourite quotes, because it definitely focuses on some harder topics, if you will, and there's definitely some emotions in this book, and I absolutely cried my heart out while reading it. Again, all of these books have just made me cry in one way or another. This is what this video title should be. Not my 23 faves, just books that made me cry. We are now in top 3 territory, so the next 3 books that we're going to talk about are arguably my 3 favourite books of the entire year. And I'm going to start that off with number 3, which is Heartless by Elsie Silver. I'm not going to say much more about this series because obviously, as you've seen, I've spoken about this series quite a lot in this video so far because they have cropped up here and there. But this one, for some reason, just was my absolute favourite. But it's a single dad cowboy nanny situation, and just for some reason I just loved it. The main female character is the best friend of Summer from the first book, and she's just such an amazing fiery bad bitch character, but in like a cozy small town kind of way. Something about this book and something about this series, amazing. Instant 5 star. Absolutely adored it. And I read this one like straight after my birthday as well, so it's like the middle of summer. It was in July. I was reading it in the garden with country music playing, and just the whole vibes when reading this book just made me the happiest. I think I was just at my happiest at that point, and I again want to reread this series. I love it so much. Number 2 is the Mindfuck series. This is one that I had no idea whether I was going to read or not. I'd recently got my Kindle. I got this Kindle in January of last year, so I've nearly had it a year now. And I'd heard about the Mindfuck series, and I knew I was going to like it, but again, it just wasn't on my immediate TBR. And then when I got my Kindle, it was all on Kindle Unlimited, and I was like, look, I need something short. I need something quick to read, just to get the reading experience on the Kindle, because obviously I'd never read on a Kindle before. And if you're not sure, the Mindfuck series is 5 short mini stories. So obviously I tried to keep individual books in series separate in this video, but obviously because the Mindfuck series are like really short books, it's really hard to decipher like what happened in each, so I'm just going to put it as a series as a whole. I adored this book, this series of books as a whole. It was just so amazing. You can actually get a paperback full of all of them in one, so whether you want to count it as 5 short stories or one individual book, that's completely up to you, but my Kindle counted it all separately, which is why I count it as 5 separate books. But anyway, it's about a female serial killer called Lana and an FBI agent called Logan, and it's sort of like a dark romance thriller mystery kind of vibe, and obviously she's a serial killer, he's an FBI agent, they fall in love, unfolds, and it's honestly one of my favourite things. That is honestly one of my 6-star reads. I've only got 2 6-star reads so far, and the next one will be another 6-star read. But honestly, I instantly devoured that series within a couple of days. I read like 3 of them in one day, and I loved it. And this is your sign to read it. I've made everyone read it. Anyone that I know that's got a Kindle or Kindle Unlimited or something, I'm like, read them books. Read them books now. I think you're all gonna know what my favourite book of this year so far is, but if you don't know, this is another one of my only other 6-star reads. Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I absolutely ate this book up. I knew that I was going to love it before I even read it. This is so weird to me, but I loved this book before I'd even opened it. I was on holiday with Riley, and I had an inkling that I was going to get these books for my birthday, so I was like, I love these books already. They're about rich people set in London with a Gossip Girl vibe. I was like, I love books set in London. As someone that lives in London and someone that knows exactly the setting of the book, someone knows exactly the vibes of the book, I was like, I'm going to love this book. And for some reason I had like this little unhealthy attachment before I'd even read it. And then when I picked it up, it was the most exciting experience. It was one of my most anticipated reads ever, and it did not disappoint. And I'm not going to say I recommend this book, because arguably it was the most frustrating thing I've ever read in my life, but in the best way possible, because it's sort of like a will they, won't they, childhood best friends to lovers gone wrong. Like, it's a very frustrating, messy series. As I said before, I love pain, I love trauma in books, and this just set the vibe up. I'm definitely going to reread this series once I finish the other books, because the next one comes out in February as well, which I'm also very, very excited for. But it just makes me so excited to read other books as well. I'm going to give you an example. I've had these books on my Amazon wishlist for the longest time, which is the Addicted series, and I'm slowly collecting them. I've got the first 3 so far. The rest are on there, so maybe after Christmas I'll order myself a couple more, or I might get a few more. And I just know that I'm going to love this series because I love Magnolia Parks, because it's sort of that messy vibes with like trauma and everything. So I feel like if I love this, I'm going to love this. I feel like I just adored every single thing about this book. I've had photo shoots with this book, not official, but like my own thing. The amount of pictures I've got in my camera roll of this book, astronomical. And I really want to go through and annotate it. I've actually got every single copy of the original covers and every single copy of the new covers as well. I'm just slowly collecting little editions of it, and I just love it. Obviously I'm in the midst of my uni exams right now, so I was like, I want to read The Long Way Home. And I was like, no, I'm not going to let myself, because I will not give it the full attention that it deserves. Love it. So those are my 23 favourite books of 2023. This video is going to get harder and harder every single year, because obviously the amount will go up and up and up. Like imagine it's like 2046 and I'm going to have to give you 46 books. Not gonna happen. Sorry guys. I might have to stop doing this video at 2025, because I think even 23 was a stretch. 23 books is a massive amount. I've read just over 100 books this year, and I've had a great reading year, I think. But obviously I will speak a little bit more about that in another video. But I just want to let you know that I've had such a fun reading experience this year. Obviously I've still got videos coming out this year. This isn't a goodbye for me from this year, but I just wanted to let you know that I have had such a fun journey. I think BookTube has definitely heightened that journey for me. It definitely made me read books that I wouldn't particularly have picked up, like ACOTAR. Just certain things that BookTube has given me the experience to do that I wouldn't have had if I didn't start it. So I'm just going to give a quick thank you to everyone that subscribed to my channel, everyone that has come and joined me on this journey. I have no words to explain how grateful I am for all of you that are watching this video right now. If you did enjoy this video, or if you have enjoyed my videos over the past year, then give this video a thumbs up. Comment your all-time favourite book so far of 2023. Obviously I know we've still got a couple of weeks to go, but comment that down below, and also comment a book that you're most excited to read in 2024, your most anticipated read so far. I love you guys lots. You will still see me by the end of the year, but I just wanted to say a quick thank you, and I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!